Welcome to the Erotic Realm podcast, where we explore the psychology of darker desires. I'm Em, and if you're new here, welcome. I'm a psychosexuality nerd with a background in psychology, sociology, medical science, and Tantra. I'm also in a 24/7 collared relationship, and I'm passionate about humanizing kinksters. Join me here for in-depth one-on-one conversations as we explore the fascinating world of eroticism, one erotic realm at a time. If you love what we're doing here in the Erotic Realm, I'd like to ask you a quick favor. Can you follow and rate the show on Spotify? It helps the show reach more people like you. And if you haven't yet, I'd love if you could subscribe to my Substack, Psychology of Desire. This is where I go even deeper into the science of symbolism, of desire, archetypes, and erotic evolution. You'll get access to articles, unique surveys and research, and behind-the-scenes access to everything we're building. Visit psychologyofdesire.substack.com. I'll see you there. And now for today's episode. The following conversation invites you into the shifting edges of power, play, and devotion with Valkyrie, a woman who began as a professional dom and later discovered an unexpected home in submission. We talk about why someone might swap the whip for the collar, how degradation and ABDL can be practice, not pathology, and what it feels like to be seen, broken open, and cared for inside play. If you're curious about regression, pet play, or the deeper meaning behind degradation scenes, this one will challenge assumptions and expand your map. Enjoy. Before we get started, I have a quick idea to run by everyone. I'm thinking of starting up speed dating for kinksters online. I would love to help people find their kinky partner. And at the moment, I'm just gauging interest and seeing how many people would be keen for kinky speed dating. So if this is something that interests you, I'll put a link in the episode description for a form that you can fill out to show your interest. I collect a little bit of information about you and what you're looking for. And once I receive enough interest, I will let you know next steps. It's really exciting. I'd love to help you find your kinky partner if that's what you're looking for. I have some exciting news to share. The Erotic Realm has officially signed with True Native Media. This means ads are coming to the podcast. So for the next few months, they won't be host-read by me. Part of the deal is that the network will be running their own ads during this early stage. But don't worry, this is temporary. Once that period is over, I'll be moving into host-read ads, which means I'll have more control, choosing sponsors that truly align with our mission. And that mission hasn't changed: to humanize kink, to explore the psychology of desire, and to spread these conversations even further. Sponsorship makes that possible. It allows me to keep producing high-quality, taboo-breaking content, and it helps this podcast grow beyond what I could do alone. So, thank you for bearing with me during this transition, and thank you for being part of this journey. Every rating, share, and subscription fuels the reach of the Erotic Realm, and this is just the beginning. Now back to the show. The following conversation is with Helen, a submissive, an erotic intensity seeker, and a woman whose journey reveals what it means to reclaim sexuality after decades of silence. In this episode, we explore the pivotal moments that shaped her erotic self, from witnessing an electric chair scene in the 90s that shocked her, to the long years of repression in a sexless marriage, and finally, the resurgence of desire through yoga, kink, and opening her marriage. If you've ever wondered what it takes to step into kink after repression, or how submission can become a pathway to healing and altered consciousness, this episode offers both vulnerability and wisdom. Enjoy. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Erotic Realm podcast. Today, I am pleased to be exploring the erotic realm of Helen. Welcome, Helen.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So, first of all, we'd like to get to know who you are outside of kink. What fills your days and what brings you joy in your day-to-day life?
Well, I had a very extensive, intense career, corporate career for 31 years. Um, I retired in 2024 and am a very dedicated yoga practitioner. I have been for the past 10 years, but the found time gave me the ability to really take my practice to the next level, get my teaching certification. And that is a really big part of my life right now, along with animal advocacy. I've been very involved in animal advocacy since 2009. We've fostered over 100 animals in this house.
Wow.
Um, and and have stories for days, that none of them kinky, but good stories nonetheless. And currently, uh, I have a Great Pyrenees. We have two dogs, two cats, all rescues, always rescues, only rescues. And this dog just has a wonderful temperament that somebody noticed and mentioned to me, hey, that should be a therapy dog.
Mm.
So we went through an AKC certified canine good citizen program about 3 years ago. She passed, and we've been working with hospice patients the last 2.5 years, which has been great, but is very intensive and heavy. And I felt like we were ready for a change. So this past weekend, we are we went through an evaluation to get on with a new organization that is a little more expansive: children's hospitals, rehab centers, senior centers, just kind of does everything around Atlanta where I'm based. And I just was so nervous because this dog is so approachable, so mellow. She knows when she's working, but she does not want to sit.
Oh.
And when I tell her to sit, she looks at me like, no, you sit. So we've been working with her on this very benign command compared to all the other evaluation she has to pass. And we got in there, and the first thing they asked her to do was sit, and she looked away.
Oh.
But she proceeded to slay the rest of the evaluation, where four people are descending on you, petting you aggressively all at once, and
Mm-hmm.
you dealing with someone in a wheelchair and a walker, and they're opening an umbrella in your face and dropping phone books around you, and all these high stress um, distractions or invasions that she did great on. So we are getting ready to continue our training to go in this different direction, and it's a wonderful thing to first rescue a dog, and it's a wonderful thing when that dog turns out to have a skill set where you can give back to the community with the dog.
That's so beautiful. My mum does the same thing. So, yeah, it's a really beautiful service to bring joy to people in those situations. Lovely. Okay, so now I'd love to dive into your erotic realm. Who are you when it comes to your eroticism, Helen? What labels best explain your sexuality and why?
I defined my own kink, my primary kink. I call it erotic intensity.
Mm.
And what it is it is just this need to be in an altered consciousness. It's this need to have the cerebral and the physical engagement, like the symbiotic, the binding of the two. So just the physical would fall flat without the mental piece. And that's kind of why I think that BDSM resonates with me so strongly, because for legitimate practitioners, that mental piece is part of it. It can't exist without it. Um, and so it just aligns with me. It's, there's emotion, there's feeling. It just it just means so much to me. It's hard for me to explain that it means so much to me. It's so important in my life, you know, being able to express that to my husband, who is 100% vanilla,
Mm-hmm.
is, it's who I am, and being able to say that to him is really special.
Mm. So you mentioned that your husband is vanilla. So how did you discover the BDSM world and the BDSM community?
Um, I started kinky really young. Like, I was masturbating to Playboy at 13. Like, thanks, Dad, if you're listening. Um, but it like kind of it kicked off just with this kind of hypersexuality when I was young. And I grew up, like, I hear so many people say they grew up in households where it was shameful or religion got in the way or whatever. But my father was a physician and my mother was just open about sex. I had two sisters, and we talked about, like, my friends always laugh that we talk about menstruation at the dinner table. Like, it was nothing, it was just science, and it just was the way people are wired. So I never felt shame around sexuality. And it I ended up having a very sexually sophisticated high school boyfriend. He was 17, I was 17, but the things we were doing were beyond 17. We were doing bondage, we were doing anal, we were watching porn. We were just it was kind of this it was getting to explore my sexuality in a very raw way, when and it felt perfectly normal.
Mm.
It felt perfectly normal. It wasn't strange. Um, and so these innate traits and preferences have always been there for me. Like, people keep saying to me, well, when did you get into the lifestyle? And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, in 1987, I didn't know the word lifestyle, and had just learned to drive. And so it just, it didn't have a name like that, but it feels like to me it was always there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I kind of went about my life, like, after that, like, I just went through my life as this kinky person. And in the early 90s, before the internet came, I was researching things. Like, there was a there's a book by Research is the publication. It's called Modern Primitives. And it was a book about, like, tattooing and piercing and scarification, and just something about body modification and body adornment had just kind of gotten into me. So that's what I initially started uh, researching. And then I found out about Eric Kroll's. He did a lot of fetish photography. And again, no internet. I had the books. Um, and no one in my life was kinky, but, like, the boyfriends I had, even though they weren't kinky, I was kinky, and they were okay that I was kinky. So there was never, again, no shame about it. And it kind of just, being able to be my authentic self really worked for me. So all those years, I was just kind of floating along, and I never met anyone that was kinky. Like, I never met anyone. Like, when I had finally researched, I probably researched from 94 to 96 about piercings. And this book had a lot of, I think it only had the male genital piercings in it. But when I finally researched it enough to know that I wanted it, I, like, was at my first job, and I was in a little skirt suit with pantyhose on, because we wore pantyhose back then, not nylons or hosiery. It was just pantyhose. And I just went on my lunch break, and I got my clitoral hood pierced, and I got my navel pierced, and didn't know anyone with piercings. And I just strapped on the pantyhose and went back to work.
Oh, wow.
And so I just was doing things that were kind of instinctive to me and felt right, even
Mm.
though I couldn't get validation. I couldn't get, um, I didn't have a partner in crime. I didn't have a peer group. But it, like, it was the right thing for me, and I knew it.
Mm. So were you with your husband when you got those piercings in your lunch break?
No,
Ah,
that
okay.
was years before him. So I
Mm-hmm.
got my piercings in 96 and I married him in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So, so yeah, I dated a lot. Um, you know, I never really came across anyone kinky. And when I tell you I dated a lot, and it never happened for me. Um, I had an experience along the way in the 90s, something I saw at a fetish club that didn't land with me. It was um, what the person I was with was telling me that what was going on was consensual, that these two people loved each other, but it was very dark, um, and, and very violent. And I didn't believe what she was a dom, and I didn't believe her. It was the first time I said, no, that that's not right. There's something not right there. And it made me start questioning, wait a minute, like I want things. I want to have a career and I want to buy a house and I think I want to get married someday. Like I don't want to go down this rabbit hole where people are doing bad things to each other that I don't believe have anything to do with love. And so that did make me start kind of questioning. That was probably in the late 90s. And so then I dated, for the next several years. And I did eventually, when I was 36, I met this man, this vanilla man, and I was absolutely very kinky. I, tried introducing it to him. I had these piercings. I mean, my position, my sexuality was very much in the forefront, but it just never landed with him. It just
Mm.
never resonated with him. He never accepted it. And it was difficult.
Mm.
It was really difficult.
I just want to go back to the scene that you mentioned. It sounds like something shocked you. Was that your first time in a fetish club and you saw something that really shocked you? And did that turn you away from kink?
I wouldn't say it turned me away. What the context was is I had been working volunteering on this cable access TV show,
Mm.
and we had a dominatrix from Florida come up, and she had one of her slaves with her and had put clothespins on him and whipped them off and talking about DS and all those things. And I really liked her. I felt very connected to her. There was this BDSM club I would go to with my friends. They were not kinky, but they were not vanilla either. They were a little left of center. They could understand and accept um, people living in different ways. So we went to this kink club, and what I saw was a man. They were partners. So a man was sitting in an electric chair with his testicles hooked up to a huge battery,
Mm.
and they were shocking him to the point where he was flattened in the chair and foaming at the mouth.
Oh, wow.
Um, and that's what she was telling me, that they love each other. And she was telling me that it was consent.
Mm.
And the interesting thing is that one of the munches I go to, there is a femdom who's been in the Atlanta scene forever. And I told this story recently because I was trying to tell new people that, if you see something, if you feel something and it doesn't land with you, you need to talk to someone about it. Because
Mm.
if I could have talked to someone about that back then, I think that might have helped me get some clarity or been able to compartmentalize it, but I couldn't. And the amazing thing was, this femdom said, I know who you are talking about. I know who was doing that. And she said, the community will not allow that anymore. The
Mm.
community will not tolerate that anymore. And so this is decades and decades ago that this happened. And when she said that to me, I was like, that was the first validation I ever got that my reaction was reasonable and what was going on, what wasn't necessarily.
Mm.
And some of it's likely that just what hardcore was back then
Mm-hmm.
might not be accepted hardcore now. but just, it was incredible that we were probably at the same club on the same nights. She was seeing what I was seeing. She knew who I was talking about. And it was just like coming full circle. It was awesome. And this just happened in the last 2 months.
Okay. So just to break that down, it sounds, because we abide by different rules in kink. So safe, sane, and consensual is one of the acronyms that people abide by. So it sounds like what you were saying was consensual, but probably not safe.
It did not look safe to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the
it
way
sounds.
the body was,
Mm-hmm.
the body was reacting.
Mm-hmm.
The way the physical body was reacting.
Yep.
That did not look safe.
Yep. So what you were reacting to was your body telling you that that person wasn't safe, even though you were told it was consensual. And yeah, I just want to point that out to the listeners that we do abide by safe, sane, and consensual kink. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because without the safety protocols, there is no BDSM.
Yep.
And the practitioners in the community are so stringent, so committed to this. Like, people ask me sometimes, who polices this? And it's like, the community members police it. But when you talk to people and they're like, oh, I want to get involved in bondage, will you teach me about this? The first thing I say to them is, you need to learn the safety protocols, because it all starts there. And I cannot reiterate that enough to people who are interested in, now I'm going to say it, the lifestyle. But you are so right. The safe, sane, and consensual is it. Without it, there's nothing.
Yeah, it's the line between BDSM and abuse, right? So, yep, we have to abide by it. Okay, I want to focus in on your marriage. So you've mentioned that you married a vanilla man, and I believe you're still married to him, but you've been
I'll be married 20 years in March.
Congratulations. So it sounds like you've been on quite the journey together, because it's my understanding that you started off in a monogamous, more traditional marriage, and now you have a different setup. Can you share more about that?
Yes. So my kink existence was largely rejected the first 10 years of my marriage. And I got so consumed by my career. I did start just trying to purge it. Like, I got rid of my riding crop and my strap on and all these things that were just symbols of my kinkiness and that had meaning to me and that I'd acquired over time. And I just started trying to purge them, and just this part of me went largely dormant. And in addition, we have very different sexual orientations and appetites. So there just wasn't a lot going on for me. And I really subsisted largely on masturbation, exercise, and alcohol for many years. And I hate to say that, but that is absolutely what happened. And so when I retired in 2024, after working for 31 years, 20 of them while I was with my husband, all of a sudden my yoga practice got really erotic. And I was looking around the room like, oh, is anyone else feeling this? And I hope people can't tell. And should I ask my yoga teacher if this happens to people sometimes? And like, it was like a wave. It was awesome, but it was strange. And, it everything started just flooding back into me, like just coming to the surface, like with just corporate America out of the way and me having a chance to catch my breath. And I was in a career, I was dealing with people, I dealt with human resources, I was managing big problems, and just always focused on other people. And all of a sudden I was like coming back into myself, and it just came flooding out of me, just all of it. And I just woke up and said, I can't do this anymore. I can't be in a largely sexless marriage. I can't not be my kinky self. And how am I? And in 18 and a half years, I had never told anyone. I had not told my best friend. I had not told a therapist. I had not told anyone about this dormant, this monogamous, sexless marriage, and that's what it is, or just nothing. So the first thing I did was tell my best friend and go to a therapist and say, what should I do? Because what I was struck with, in addition to I can't live like this anymore, is that I did not want to sacrifice my integrity to be my authentic self.
Mm.
I'm big into, I want to be my authentic self, but I'm big into integrity. I'm trying to be a good person. I'm trying to do the right thing on this cold little stone while I'm here. And that really surfaced just as quickly for me. So I did start researching ENM, which is something which is ethical non-monogamy. It's essentially described as the opposite of cheating. I started researching, well, what are other people in sexless marriages doing? Other people who have roommate marriages, and they exist. They were there. They were, and I was reading about it, and I was like, wow, there's an alternative to getting divorced or cheating. And the reason that Em and I are even talking tonight is because my name on FetLife is HelenATL. And I interact with a lot of people. I get DMs, and, based on the photographs I post, I don't really look like this married conventional woman. So I'll get these questions, and I put out there, well, I'm married. And it's like, you're married? Oh. And then, I have this back and forth with other people who are in situations kind of like me that married into something more traditional, and they are having these strong feelings about kink or about their sexuality, about the orientation they signed up for in their marriage that might not complete them. And I'm always very quick to say, you should seek counseling. There are kink positive counselors. My husband and I see a kink focused couples therapist, and I also have a kink therapist on my own where I can share a little more of the gory details and talk about things I need to talk about. But I always say to them, have you spoken to your partner about this? Have you spoken to your spouse? Have you spoken to your wife? It's typically men. I just haven't had a lot of women come my way with the issue. And their reaction is, it is absolutely not. She would never go for it. There's no way. And it is that every time. And additionally, I was corresponding with a man who said he is living fully as a man. He is in a marriage. He's having sex with his wife. And then he was sending me pictures of himself cross-dressing, having hotel sex with random men. And it was kind of early on when I joined FetLife. And eventually I was like, one, I don't want to be hearing this shit. So stop fantasy dumping on me, because that's what it was becoming. But also, you are lying and you are putting your wife at risk.
Mm-hmm.
And 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 I called him out on it. And it was this we had been corresponding over months, and I just couldn't take it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like we in kink, we are very sensitive about wanting people to respect who we are. But I don't see a lot of that reciprocated to others outside of kink who might not be wired the way we are or feel the way we are. And so that's why I reached out, because I felt like the work that I've put into this marriage and the work that my husband has, because when I went to him and said, I cannot do this anymore, I want to go outside the marriage, I want to explore ethical non-monogamy, will you go to counseling? He said, yes, I will. And, it has not been easy, and it is weird. And we are living our vanilla life, and I am this middle-aged retired woman, and walking down the street, you'd be like, you would not be thinking that about me. But, my message is that before you say no, you know, is it worth considering that maybe common ground is attainable? That maybe to love someone and be loved back by a partner who is fundamentally different is doable. That just we we can't be kinky in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
We have to consider others and the choices that we made and the commitments we made, and how can we pivot and how can it be palatable for both partners.
That's a beautiful message. Thank you for sharing. I just want to go back to breaking down more about what the process was like for you. So you woke up one morning and you realized, I just can't do this anymore. Did you speak to your husband that day? Did it take some time for you to get the courage to do that? What was that process like for you?
It was quick for me because I move quick. So I told my best friend, I went to the therapist, and that was in May of 24. And in June of 24, I went to him and with that message. And I don't think he really heard me, actually, because I don't think he heard me because when we got on the phone with the therapist at the beginning of July, and she said to me, Helen, would you be willing to postpone taking action, on ethical non-monogamy now that we are going to be starting counseling? I said, no, I will not, because 18 and a half years is long enough. And that he heard. So I was very direct about it, and I was angry because think of how many years I had gone without, and that had built up over time. And again, masturbation, exercise, and alcohol can only take you so far. But it was that direct. And we don't have children, so I know children throw a wrinkle into all of this that I didn't have to contend with. But the truth is, I didn't go down the rabbit hole of what if he divorces me, or what if this happens, or what if someone finds out, or I didn't go there. And I am a very pragmatic person. I think I do the analysis, whatever, but it was the reality that this couldn't continue. It was going to have to change. And part of me felt like I'm going to take my licks. I mean, there are going to be consequences, and I'm willing to take the consequences. That's kind of what I only went that high level with it. Like, I don't want to lie. I want to keep my integrity intact. I want to live as my authentic self, and I'm willing to take the consequences. And that was the extent of it.
And what was the first step for you in starting to explore with other people? Did you get on the dating sites? Did you just go straight to FetLife? How did you begin that process?
I went to the field, FEELD. So I went on there and started having conversations with people. I ended up meeting this vanilla couple who wanted to have a threesome, and I had a threesome with them, but it was just so vanilla. It was like, I'm so bored. And so, I started exploring, but the main thing that happened was I went on Fetish, and I found someone who I could see was living the lifestyle in Atlanta, genuinely kinky. I think he referred to FetLife because he gotten in trouble on there, like posted too many pictures or whatever. So I went to FetLife, sent him a very respectful, formal, almost business-like email about my circumstance, and that I'm trying to learn, and I wanted to get connected, and I'm trying to meet people who I can talk to about this. That was all I was looking to do. And I got a note back like, I just got back from Hawaii, and whatever. It just was very dismissive. And I could tell he thought I was a weirdo. But eventually he circled back with me, and I met with him, and we really talked, and he went through a 7-page form, a BDSM form
Mm.
of, of like, what have you done? What are you interested in? 50% of it I'd never even heard of. Like, but it was very formal. It was a very formal consensual process. And it was kind of nice to have that experience. Um, and then he ended up helping me. And he made the suggestion, what you need to do is get connected with munch leaders in Atlanta so people know who you are, so you can get in with the actual community instead of just being online. You can meet real people. You can have these connections where you can enter this world safely being on your own, because that was my concern, as being
Mm.
like single female coming in on my own and wanting experience, not having experience, not knowing what the watchouts were. So he connected me to people. I met with people. Another one of the munch leaders met with me to go through what consent was, quote unquote, traveling with a wingman, what fluid bonding meant, what safe sex was, just everything. So I got set up on the front end to be to kind of know where the lines were, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did end up partnering with that first person that I mentioned. I ended up partnering with him for 8 months, where which was the best learning curve and tremendous amount of fun, and being with someone who was, so respectful of my marriage, and just being able to have that release. And it was just wonderful. Like, I got so lucky. I'm so grateful.
So, what was your first kinky experience like after all of that time waiting? Can you share with us what happened and perhaps how it felt for you before the experience, during the experience, and afterwards?
Yes. It was funny because it was an experience where I was just going to have a conversation and wasn't expecting to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me, "Would you like to try some impact?" And I was like, "Okay." Um, Not really knowing much about what impact was or anything like that. So that kind of was my first experience, and um, just of the sensation and the kind of being bound, and I felt perfectly safe. Um, it felt perfectly natural to me. I'm not a big impact person now, but the bondage part felt perfectly natural to me. Um, and it felt like, yeah, this is where I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it it just kind of felt like picking up from where I left off.
Right. And how did you feel afterwards? Were you feeling floaty,
Calm,
relieved, calm?
very calm. And what I did then, and what my practice always was with him, was when I'd leave, we'd be together for like 3 hours. When I'd leave, I'd always go straight to yoga. So I kind of just got to further indulge that subspacey, floaty feeling in my practice.
Okay. And that goes into what you were talking about earlier, your desire for the erotic intensity and the altered states. So you were lengthening that process.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Mm.
it was pretty awesome.
I don't think I've done a yoga class straight after play. What's it like?
It's very, it's, you're just completely in your head and in your body at the
Mm.
same time. And I practice vinyasa flow. So, like, literally, it's almost like, feels like an erotic dance.
Mm. So is yoga also a form of aftercare for you?
I guess that in that context, it actually was.
Mm.
Like, that was my practice. I would get in the car, drink a protein shake, go to yoga, float my way through it, happy as can be, um, and and then come out on the other side and go home and shower and have dinner with my husband
Mm.
and call it a great day.
Mm. I wonder if it helps with the process of subdrop, which some people experience after play as well. If maybe yoga would mitigate that somewhat. Yeah, it's really
I
interesting to think
really
about.
think it could.
Mm.
Yeah, I really think that it could, just because of the endorphins that you'd be able to, carry your endorphins into it and your dopamine. But at the end of the practice, you would come down in a measured way
Mm.
with shavasana, slowing down the physical, slowing down your mind, and then have a little quiet time. So
Mm.
I never thought about that. And that is like really a quality observation.
I haven't thought about it either. So, yeah, I'll have to try that out for myself, I think. So, thanks for the idea. So, Helen, what has been your husband's reaction to your journey? What's we've heard about what was going on for you, what your first experience was like. What was happening for him while you were going through this?
Well, the way we established it was a don't ask, don't tell policy. He did not want to know anything. Um, the therapist wasn't, she didn't love that. She said the couples who can talk about this stuff, you know, do better with it. But I was respectful of that, and I've always been really respectful about being discreet to the point where it causes me a lot of stress. And that's some of what I end up talking about with my other um, therapist. But now we're over a year into it, and I did just have something interesting happen within the last 2 weeks. That's a great example of kind of how far we've come. So this whole posting photographs, my initial partner, that is one of his kinks, taking pictures and posting photographs. Um, and so that kind of started happening to me doing these scenes with him. I started having these pictures. So when we split, um, I started I was home by myself. I didn't have a current partner, and I was kind of like looking around like, how am I going to perv out on my own? What could I do? And I started just finding all this inspiration around just things in my home, like spaces and the art and just all this inspiration. But so initially it was, it has become something that it was not intended to be. It's become bigger than that. It's kind of taken on a life of its own. So earlier this year, my husband walked in and I had some very mild, I would say, naked picture of myself. And he walked in and there it was. And I said, well, this is what I do. Um, and he kind of grumbled. And I said, maybe you can take maybe you can take my pictures for me now. And he goes, not if you're posting them online. And that was the extent of the conversation. And that was probably in February. So cut to 2 weeks ago, I hit kind of a milestone number of the people who look at my photographs, and my profile just, it blew up. It like the number of people and the DMs and the comments, it just, some algorithm must have hit. And I try to be very respectful and grateful to the people who look at my pictures. I am very grateful to them. And I'm very glad that, my style and like what I'm trying to say resonates with them. So I was trying to respond to everyone, and I really spent the whole day doing it. And I was tired. And so that afternoon, I was checking out this gym, and this woman took me with her to this gym that was in this hotel that had a club attached to it. So I'm like standing there with the towel I brought and the water I brought in this fancy place where you didn't need to bring a towel and water. So I'd had this, really kink intensive day. And then I was at this club and with around all these fancy people. And I just left just feeling the weight of the dichotomy of what my day was,
Mm.
that I'm this 55-year-old retired woman, like living in this vanilla marriage in this vanilla world, like posting these provocative pictures online and interacting with all these people. And then I'm like checking out this gym with all these fancy people. And I just left feeling like I don't belong in either of these worlds. And I left feeling really shitty. And so I walk into my house and my husband just says, "How was the gym?" And I just burst into tears, just
Oh.
weeping. And I could not even catch my breath. And I'm not a big crier. So he's like, what is going on? And so I just sat down and I said to him, I said, this, I have to tell you what is going on in my kink life. I have to tell you that these photographs have taken on a life of their own. I'm taking pictures around the house. I am creating things that speak to me, and that I'm sharing them with other people, and they are resonating with other people, and there are more people looking at them now than before. And 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 I said, and I just told him, and I've been doing this long enough that like I see the people coming and going from the scene. I see the tourists. I see them come through. And I said, and I have never wavered. I said, this BDSM is important to me and I need it. And it makes me feel really disconnected from you when I can't talk to you about what's going on in my life. And I also told him how I was feeling about this gym and all these people, and me standing there with my water bottle with them with their wine glasses in hand. And that just, it just, I just felt like a weirdo. And he, he said, he was so wonderful. I said, "Can I show you some of my pictures?" And he said, "Yes." And so I have one file, one album that is titled Solo Scenes, Me, Myself, and I. And those are scenes that I have conceptualized and that I have executed, photographed all on my own. And so they're something that I'm proud of. And I showed him, I spared him the hardcore raunch. I will admit that. But I showed him these pictures that were taking place in his home, and pictures taken off the wall and moved and in the background of my scene. And I showed these to him. And he was open, and he said to me the most beautiful thing. He said, "If these photographs are providing you with fulfillment and meaning, then you need to keep doing them." And he
Oh.
said, "And if you want to join a fancy club, then you join a fancy club, because you don't have to comply to anyone's ideal of normal."
Wow.
And I was like, wow, see, this is what it is. This is what it is, because I never would have gotten that from him if I hadn't given him the chance,
Mm.
if I hadn't have gone to him. And so there's been plenty that's happened between then and now, or actually maybe not enough, because we haven't talked about it. But at this time, he said, "Look, when I said don't ask, don't tell, I really was talking about being with other people. I don't want to know about that, but I'm happy to hear about your kink life. Like, I know you go to munches." And I was like, "Yeah, but that's just a vanilla evening at a restaurant." But he said, "I'm happy to hear about it." So that was a huge milestone for us. And that just
Mm.
happened 2 weeks ago.
Mm. Wow, that's really beautiful. And it sounds like he's loving you where you are, which is what true love is all about, right?
100%. That's
Mm-hmm.
how I felt. I felt loved. I
Mm.
felt seen and loved as my authentic self.
Mm. Beautiful. So I wanted to jump more into the CNM. And one of the traditions we have on this podcast is bringing in a piece of research. I came across an article which is titled, "What Do We Know About Consensual Non-Monogamy?" And what stood out in this article was that CNM isn't just one thing. It can look like polyamory, swinging, open relationships, or, like you said that you have, a don't ask, don't tell agreement. So the researchers found that people in CNM relationships report levels of relationship satisfaction and well-being at similar levels to those in monogamous relationships. But they also carry what the authors call a CNM burden. And this is the stigma, misconceptions, and the pressure to prove their relationships are valid. So they describe CNM as incredibly varied and evolving over time. They say that a structure can shift with experience and need. So you've touched on it a little bit, but I'm curious, since opening in 2024, what has surprised you about what actually worked for you versus what you imagined would?
Hmm. I don't feel that surprised. I mean, I know the man I'm with, so I kind of knew what his avoidance reaction was going to be.
Mm,
Um, and I ended up getting really lucky about having this partnership. I think the thing with this agreement is that it is living and breathing. It's not just okay, we both agreed to this. It's kind of consent based. It's the fact that you do have to continually check in. You do have to see how things are landing. You kind of have to care for your relationship in a more intentional way, I would say.
mm-hmm,
Um, I wasn't really worried about, you know, whether I looked legitimate to other people because no one knows. No
mm,
one knows about it. So no one's judging me. Like, of course, I would tell the whole world he would prefer that I not. And I mean, somewhere in the middle would probably be nice, but whatever. Um, but just look, the way it feels to me is my life feels extremely unconventional and complex, but it is real. And I can breathe fully living as my authentic self.
mm-hmm,
And that's where it starts and stops. And like, so I have to, and everything else in my marriage is solid and good and supportive, and there's trust, and there's so much good, which there isn't time to talk about, but there's so much of that. And it was like, is it worth like disrespecting my partner with behavior that doesn't align with who I want to be anyway?
mm-hmm,
So that I just don't think enough people. There are a lot of E&M people on like field and stuff. I saw them. There are a lot of them. So it was kind of nice to see that people are doing it. Like, so nobody talks about it. And that was one thing I really didn't like. That, well, if I had cheated or I was getting divorced, oh my God, I could talk to the whole world about that.
mm,
People would want to have lunch with me. They would want to take me for a coffee.
mm-hmm,
But this non-traditional setup, I think people would run like hell.
mm-hmm,
I mean, it would not land. It would not land with people who are religious. It would not land with people who, are just so bought into monogamy that there can't be anything else. It just really upset me that, like, hey, here's a unconventional solution to keeping a marriage honest and intact, and I can't talk to anyone about it.
mm. I imagine that's pretty lonely at times. Mm-hmm,
It's super lonely. And to be honest, I'm lonely in BDSM.
mm,
I find it really lonely. I mean, trying to find partners, and it just how difficult it is. I mean, there are so many nuances that have to align, and I get all that, but I just didn't anticipate how lonely it would be.
oh, well, I'm sorry for that. It sounds like you're doing all the right things, though, going to munches, engaging with people online, and hopefully those connections will continue to build over time. Mm-hmm,
Exactly.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And perhaps if someone's listening to this, they might reach out to you as well. So you never know.
it's true.
So the authors also talked about how CNM often demands more intentional communication than monogamy, which you touched upon as well. I'd love to hear from you. about the time that you've spent in therapy with your husband. Has there been one concrete practice from therapy that you've utilized and that's changed the way you approach each other during this time?
Well, the actual practice that's worked the best for us is that we have to go regularly
Mm-hmm.
because we have been unable to kind of monitor our own communication as effectively as it needs to be. And we have got, I mean, I love this woman so much. Actually, I love my other therapist so much as well. But they're just this catalyst for all this connection and communication, and I always leave there feeling better, or even when it's a difficult conversation, it's still real and it still needed to be said. So the the therapy itself is the catalyst
Mm.
for us. We tried at the beginning, like, to, you know, like Esther Perel had, Esther Perel,
Mm-hmm.
the she had this kind of game that you can play, and it has cards and it sparks conversation, and there's sexual ones and there's non-sexual ones, and we were doing that, and I do really like it, but it just it wasn't what we needed. So we had kind of fallen off going regularly, and we, the three of us, recently agreed that we need to go regularly. Like, we need to be there at least once a month,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and that is the solution.
Mm. Beautiful. Now, as part of our conversation today, I asked you to bring along something to share, such as a quote, book, or movie that's influenced your eroticism. Can you share with us what you've brought along today and how it shaped your erotic realm?
Yeah. Um, hmm. I guess, I mean, at the beginning of the conversation, I referred to these books
Mm-hmm.
that I leveraged when I was first starting out, and I have them sitting here with me all these years ago. I still have them. So even when I was purging my kink collection, I never got rid of either of these books. And one of them, was published in 1989, and I think the other one was published in the early 90s. And they kind of feel a little like Bibles to me. They connect me to my youth in this space, and it's all tattered, and um, but I know the pages. Like, when I flip through it, like, I recognize everything because I was buried in these books, and I was leveraging them, um, just for companionship.
Mm.
Um, so they mean so much to me, and I have a little, I have a little kind of kink corner on our bookshelf of all my Eric Kroll, and I have a research angry women, and then tattoo advocate, all over time, like all these publications that I collected, mostly in the 90s, that mean something to me. So this is the collection that I hung on to, and I'm so happy I have it.
So you said that it was the books you mentioned earlier. Was that the tattoo and piercing books specifically?
Yeah,
Okay.
one is called Modern Primitives, and one is the book by, it's Eric Kroll's Fetish Girls. It's called Fetish
Mm.
Girls. It's one of his photography books. I saw Last Tango in Paris, and that was really erotic for me at the time. I read The Story of O and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but these books were like my anchor.
Mm. Lovely. So let's chat more about your kinks, Helen. What specific kinks have you discovered you enjoy over the last year or so of your exploration?
Well, what I discovered was I have no interest in impact, that I have no interest in rope bondage, which is kind of funny because a lot of things start out there.
Mm.
A lot of the dungeons are around shibari tying, and you know the in the public realm, there are impact scenes and all that. So I've really moved away from that. But what I really love is chains. I
Mm.
love chains. I like device bondage. Um, and I I just love the sound of chains and any equipment like that. I like, I don't like, what I don't like about impact is that it's so jarring. Getting whacked is so jarring to me that it messes up my subspace. Like I have to recenter myself after that. But like clamps, I love clamps and nipple clamps and cunt clamps and all sorts of things like that. And just being bound really, really tightly. And I
Mm.
like penetration. I like men. I like male energy. I'm so into it. Like I've always considered myself bisexual forever, like sleeping with women, back in the 90s, the whole thing, whatever. I was into it. But right now, like if there not one, but if there are multiple males around me in yoga, I can feel them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so so just part of just the subspace and just being connected to a man and just being bound and the pain, pleasure, that symbiotic, like I'm not a masochist. I don't, it's not pain for the sake of pain, but I'm really into the Gorian submissive poses. Um, I've gotten really good at practicing them. And they are a really significant stepping stone for me. I can get into a Gorian submissive pose and I can relax. My brain and body immediately starts to alter, and I'm just a stone's throw away from launching into an altered state. It's really incredible.
Mm.
It's almost like the yoga thing, but just those positions that my body knows so well now that I've been practicing them for an extended period of time. I have a mental and physical reaction to just the physical pose.
Mm.
And I
Okay.
love that.
Beautiful. And in terms of your DS, am I right in understanding that you're 100% submissive? Have you explored dominating at all?
No, I'm a submissive and a bondage bottom.
Mm-hmm.
That I it's just not there for me. I understand the switch. I've talked to people and I understand it, but it, I don't have any interest in it, and I don't think that it would get me into the headspace that I want to be in.
Mm-hmm. So you've had quite a few experiences now over the last year. I'd love to hear from you about a peak scene that you've experienced, something that really tapped into your erotic realm and really stands out when I ask you about a peak erotic experience that you've had.
I had a peak erotic experience pretty recently
Cool.
that was kind of felt otherworldly to me. It
Mm.
was the first time that I had ever been with, I am primal, and it was the first time I'd ever been with another person that was also primal. So there was an alignment that was, it was just at a different level that I hadn't experienced before. And it really changed just the whole experience, the depth of subspace and the intensity of it and the just complete abandon. um like I'll remember it the rest of my life.
Mm. So, how
Yeah,
long did that experience last for you? Did you stay in that altered state for quite some time?
I mean, it was only for the length of the session, which was about 2 hours, and then it was over, and it was not with someone who is in the lifestyle.
Mm.
um so when it was over, just like, it's just kind of funny, like I remember conversation afterwards and all this stuff. I remember that it happened, but I don't remember what was discussed or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
um so I was just like, I was just like so far underwater. It was amazing.
Mm.
It was just like being high, in the most beautiful way.
Mm. That's a really good way to put it. Now, another tradition that we have on the podcast is asking you a question sourced from one of the listeners. And today's question is from someone in a sexless marriage, and they're yearning for
Okay.
kink, and they want to know what's the very first step you'd tell them to take if they want to act with integrity?
The first step I might tell them to take is to go speak with a kink positive therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that having someone help you frame the way to approach it can be so helpful. I mean, you could just walk into your spouse and start floundering. Now, the first therapist I went to was not kink positive. She definitely wasn't.
Mm.
But she referred me. It was far enough along for me, but still, like, I'm a big believer in counseling. I just think that I just think you can't lose. I just think you can always learn something. And if you're not sure how to approach your spouse, and if you're also not sure you're what you're wanting, what you're feeling, that's what would be my recommendation. Then alternatively, if that's not an option for you, you could just go to your spouse and say, "This is what I'm feeling."
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go to my spouse with accusations or this is what happened and blah blah blah, and I'm angry and whatever. I just went with, like, I was just down to my raw self. I was just like, I can't
Mm.
do this. I can't do this. And maybe that approach would work. I just think it's worth the conversation
Mm-hmm.
before just building some completely separate life, cheating, whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
I think it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned earlier in the conversation that you coped with your sexual repression through overwork, alcohol, and exercise. How has
And
reclaiming...
masturbation.
Oh,
Don't forget the
yes,
best one. Don't
masturbation.
forget the best one.
So how has reclaiming kink changed your well-being and your overall life?
Well, I cannot tell if it's because of my age or because of coming into this, but, like, I barely drink anymore.
Mm.
I mean, it just fell away. Just I mean, losing that stressful career certainly helped as well. But I just can't imagine that, like, when I say, like, I'd rather be subspace high than wine high.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't land with me the same way as it used to. I don't crave it. It's not a relief. It's not a release. Um, and so my alcohol relationship changed completely. I still masturbate all the time. I
Mm-hmm.
can't help it. I'm just great at that. And my exercise is less. It's not. I mean, I had to do the exercise because I was just dying, not getting. It was just another physical release. Now I'm doing it in a different way, in a more intentional way, not as this is all I got. I gotta leave it all on the field.
Mm.
So yeah, it's all those things have materially changed.
Mm.
And not even necessarily that, like I said, like, not having an active partner right now. So, but still just being me, like being who I really am, and all of me being whole. There's just not as much need for all those vices and crutches.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like your confidence has increased as well. Is that right to say?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. I like, and body confidence.
Mm. That's a big one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is kind of funny at 50. I'm about to be 56 in a couple of weeks. But yeah, body confidence, and just like paying attention, and, like, wandering around naked, like, which I never would have done before. But now he's like, you've been naked for, like, an hour and a half. What are you doing?
Amazing.
And I was like, I don't know. I'm just sitting here.
Just being
So
yourself.
it's just funny. Yeah, it's just funny.
So is there anything else, Helen, that you'd like to share with the listeners that we haven't touched upon?
No, I do want to thank the people that look at my photographs, because they see me. Sometimes they send me a note and they're like, "Oh, I picked up on this in this photograph," or they can pick up on like what I was feeling, or what my intention was, or the nuances of it. Just like it just lands so strongly with me, and I'm just so grateful that I do want to acknowledge them. I see people posting all sorts of thank yous and stuff, and I'm like, look, I'm not an influencer. I'm just getting my freak on, but I'm just not all about that. But I am so grateful to them, and I just appreciate the interaction, and I try to respond to everyone, and I just want them to know that I appreciate them seeing me, and that I can be my authentic self with them.
Well, I'm so happy for you that you found a place where you can be your authentic self. It's so important.
It is so important. Yeah.
So, Helen, if you had to sum up your erotic self in one word right now, what would that word be and why?
I would say it's two words, but I would say elegantly raw. And I would say that because I'm kind of I'm just mindful. I'm mindful about my aesthetics, and like, as a submissive, I have these some more formal things that I abide by. I have my tenets of submission. My by Helen, my tenets of submission around um, preparation, accommodation, service, passivity, and so I'm kind of formal and wanting to present in a specific way, but at the same time, like I said before, I am a primal person. I am living this down to my bones. Like it is raw for me. So that's that kind of the juxtaposition of elegance and just being primal just comes together for me, and it makes sense.
I love it. Well, I'd like to thank you for sharing your erotic realm with us, Helen.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. So much fun. I really appreciate it.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm Em, and this has been the Erotic Realm podcast. Thank you for listening to the Erotic Realm. If this episode stirred something in you, please take a moment to follow the show, leave a rating, or write a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It helps more people find the show and brings visibility to this deeper conversation about eroticism and self-understanding. I'd also like to invite you to dive deeper into the psychology of desire, including my writing, research, and upcoming courses over at psychologyofdesire.com. And if you want the full experience, join thousands of curious minds on my Substack at psychologyofdesire.substack.com, where I release the Psychology of Desire case files, behind-the-scene thoughts, and intimate reflections every week, plus more. Until next time, stay curious, stay embodied, and keep exploring. Also, as always, stay perverted.